So I have a habit of digging up nice old stories. They might be traditional indigenous stories or things from the Kamloops Wawa newspaper, for example, putting them into this sort of BC teaching alphabet is how we've been thinking of it, to make it easy for people to pick up the language. And in this case, we have something from Northwest Oregon near Portland, Clackamas Upper Chinook story, told by Victoria Howard, a member of the famous, I'm going to say, Grand Ronde Native community, famous because they're very, very important in the history of Chinook Wawa. It's a community where this became their first language. And so they really treasured it, held on to it, and kind of been the center of the renaissance of Chinook Wawa in the last about 25 years. A lot of respect and thanks to them for all the work they've done down there. Tony Johnson, Henry Zink, and so forth, Jed Schruck. They teach lessons, by the way, many of them free. Entire courses are available that will make you mighty fluent in the language. At any rate, just an overview of this story before we come to the point lower in the document where we left off last time. This is a story whose characters are an old lady, 5 of her children who are all men, and 1 of her grandchildren. And the men are always out hunting. The old lady and her granddaughter are always home. And their home winds up being invaded by a skukum, a dangerous being. And terrible things happen. The old lady is assaulted by the being. Her head is torn open and it eats her brains, replaces them with snakes, and abducts her to a stone swap ilihi, which is a cave, literally a stone hole place. Now the men of the household have been contacted by the granddaughter, and they're pursuing the dangerous being to the cave. They're trying to negotiate with it to get grandma back, with or without her brains. And they're getting a flat refusal. One of the men has gone down into that cave or that hole for these purposes, and this is where we are at this moment. So if I scroll just a bit here, you can see we have the straight Chinook Wawa text, because after each session, you'll see just above, after each session, I'll go through and add a running English translation for folks, and add sort of footnotes like this here, telling various points that we've discussed and that seem worthy of pointing out for learners. So after we do today's session down here, I will do that operation, and this will be distributed to all of you who are participating right now. We have only about a page and a half of the story left and a number of participants here. So I'm going to suggest we throw out, for volunteer translation, just a little at a time, maybe about 2 sentences at a time, roughly this much text. And so some of you are familiar with this procedure. Do I have a volunteer to handle this first highlighted piece?
Sean volunteers.
Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful.
I was about to myself.
Good man.
All right. Yaka ko kikuli, late yaka nanich okoklamie, clunus kansihayu tilikum what mitlight yawa. So he goes down. Definitely, he saw this old woman. Clunas Kansehayu, many other people were also there.
Nice work. Thanks for thanks
Mhm.
for volunteering.
Masi.
I will read Wach Naika Wawa Ogog. Wach Naika Nanich Piwawa Ogog Pipa. So I will also read and say, read aloud this text. Yaka o kikuli delete yaka nanich okok lamiai. Ones kan si hayu telecom wacht mitlight yawa. So yeah, this is one of the 5 male family members. He arrived is the basic meaning of he arrived or he got there down below, Kikuli. Really or indeed, he saw that old woman. Now I'm going to say the next words in their literal meanings first, okay? So maybe, how many, many. Put those all together and it means goodness knows how many people also were there. You put that clonus at the beginning of, what would otherwise be a questioning word, and it turns into sort of God knows, ... or goodness knows, ... or who knows, ... depending on your own way of speaking English. So for example, clonus icta, maybe what, is used to express sort of who knows what. Okay. Or it could be used, functionally as sort of something or other. Bonus icta, something or other. Okay, this looks like I should include all of the quoted speech as well. Who would like to take that?
I can grab that if no one else wants it.
Yeah.
Okok ista mislait yawa. Okok men yaga wawa yaga. Maika mama killa pai. Kopan saika ogok lamiai. Yaga wawa halo. So the thing was also down there. The creature we're talking about. The man we're talking about, he said to the creature, "You need to return our grandmother." And the creature said never or no.
Nice. Okay, good. Klush, Masi. And Naika Nada Piwawa Okok. Okok Ikta Metlait Yawa. Okok Man Yaka Wawa Yaka. Maika Mamu Galapai Kopan Saika Okok Lamiai. Yaka Wawa. Halo. I put a dotted underline here on that Yaka, kind of show it's a different Yaka. It's a different third person, so a little bit of emphasis here. So first Yaka is this man, right? So then when we switch to Yaka being the Skukum, I have it underlined. So Yaka Wawa. So yeah, Okokekta, that thing, as it keeps being referred to in this story, that thing was there. That man, he said to it, or he told it, "You make return to us that old lady." That's one way to give a command. I like how you said it, Nick. How did you put that in English? It was like you need to, or you better.
Yeah,
Something
like you better return her. You need to return her.
Yeah, so you understood this is an order. Micah, Mamo Kelapai Kopa Nasaika, Okoglamiai. And Yakawawa, it said no.
Dave, I had a question about the beginning of that paragraph. Should I save the question for later or just?
Well, Wawanika Alta.
Well,
Ask me now.
good. So when we first read that story, it was not clear to me, or it was not immediately clear whether the Tunas Kansi Hayutilicum meant, other bodies of maybe other people that the monster had killed before, or it was more of the, ich lema pi ich diak with monsters, right?
Skakooms.
Several of them. But since it's Tillicum, I think it's more likely that it's other, people, human people.
Yeah. Noetka. Kagwa Nika Dum Dum. Ich Dum Dum Nika Kanamox Micah. So that's what I think. I'm of one mind with you. I agree with you. Because now we've really been realizing that when the Skokum type being is talked about, it's called an ikta, right? In this story, it's called a thing. It's never really, described as definitely a person. Only in its first appearance, way up above, right? When the girl first sees, what she takes to be one of her relatives coming home from a distance, the story had said, that she saw a tilchum, right? That turns out quickly to be a mistaken impression, and it's the monster, and it's always called an ikta, yeah.
Halo Tillicum.
So I do think this is more victims, down there in the cave, more dead people, presumably, dead or transformed, possessed, as the old lady appears to be, with the snakes in her skull and laughing. And okay, nice. A bit of scrolling, and then how about this much dialogue and so forth? Would one of you like that to do?
I can do that. Okay. Leili Alta Yaka Tlatwa Tahani Yaka O Sahali Yaka Wawa Tlaska Yaka Wawa Wake Kata Halo Yaka Tiki Mamu Kilipai Yaka Aha Tlaska Wawa Yaka Kata Atkli Nasaika. Had a hard time with that last part. But after a while now, he went out, he arrived above, he said to them, it said, cannot. No, it doesn't want to return her. Indeed, they said to him, can later we? That's the part that, can we later take her, maybe implied.
Okay, and the literal meaning of kata is how. Now, achte is like later or future, right? And nasaika is us, we, right? So how later we, just to cheat a bit, we saw above that appears to be used as, what will we do now? What should we do now? It's kind of like, what is it, old-fashioned English? How now?
Okay.
But they say, how now we? What will we do? Okay, and I'll read through that as well. Nice job. Leili alta yaka flachwa flachani yaka slachali yaka wawa flaska yaka wawa wekata helo yaka teke mamu kelpa yaka aha flaska wawa yaka kata aften saika. And so in a long time then, after a long time then, he went out, he emerged from the cave, he arrived above ground, he said to them, it said cannot. That's literally know-how for some of our newer participants. Know-how is cannot. So it doesn't want to return her. Yes, they said to him, what will we do now? And another bit here.
It's
And
interesting now that the monster seems to be something that can be negotiated with rather than something that's just going to kill you and eat your brains out. Sounds like he had a bit of a debate in the cave with this thing.
yeah. Yeah. Although I'm still, my impression, I guess, on the balance is the monster is pretty animalistic. Even though it's now talking, it only says like one word ever.
Yeah.
So there's something, super primitive, in kind of the portrayal of it, which would match the idea of the stick Sawash, right? The stick Indians. They're said to be always a kind of more primitive, wilder, often is the word used, tribe of people who just live out in the wilderness. So maybe more primitive language or something. Let's see. Thank you very much for that. Would somebody like the next piece?
Lily alta wacht tlaska wawa yaka. Slush wacht maika tlatwa kikule. Maika tlatwa nanich. Yaka wawa aha naka tlatwa. So that's in a while. Now again, they said to him, good if, so you should go down. Maika tlatwa nanich, which you go see. He said, yes, I'll go.
Nice. That's the first time I've heard your pronunciation, and that's good pronunciation too. So yeah, Lele alta wacht slatskawawa yaka, slush wacht maika slatwa kikuli, maika slatwa nanich, yakawawa aha, naika slatwa. Yep, in a while or in a long time or after a long pause, then again they said to him, good, again you go down there. So go down there again. You go see. And he said, yes, I'll go. Hayumasi. And probably another chunk would be about this much here. Fluxta Dicky. Who wants it?
I take it now. Okay. Alda yaka hlatwa kikwali, yaka ko kikwali, ala yaka wawa yaka, naiga chagu iskam yaka, naiga lolo yaka. So now or then, he climbed down, he went down, and he got down there. And then he said to him, to it, I come to take her. I will take her, and I'll carry her.
Slush. Alta yaka slatwa kikuli, yaka o kikuli, yalta yaka wawa yaka, naika chaku iskam yaka, naika lolo yaka. Yep, then he went down there. He arrived down there. Then he said to it, I have come to get her. I'm going to take or carry her. Yeah. And so that's not enough. So maybe the rest of this paragraph for the next adventurous volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
Yeah.
Right, if you wanted to.
Yakawawa. Yakawawa kokita. Wake kata naik pasha skilla pa masai. Okok man. Yakawawa kopo okok lamiai. At Yakawawa. Kopat yaka hayu hi ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Kopat kako yak. So he said this thing. No way am I giving her back to you guys. That man, he spoke to the old lady, but she couldn't speak any which way. All she could do is just laugh, laugh, laugh. Ha 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 ha. That's all. That's all she was like.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Uh-huh. Altanaikawawa. Yakawawa okokekta. Wake. Or halo. Wekata naika pasach kelopai masaika. Okugman yakawawa kopuk lamiai. Pi wekata yakawawa. Kopit yaka hayuhihi. Ha 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 ha. Kopit kakwa yaka. And yeah, it said, that thing did, nope, no way, or, cannot, I cannot give back to you. That man, he spoke to that old woman, but she could not talk. She only kept on laughing. Hayuhihi, she kept on laughing. Ha 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 ha. Just like that was she. I was mentally hanging up on one or two features of this here. One point I already tossed in, the wake, when you just say no as an interjection. In our northern dialect or BC dialect, I'm normally switching that over to the word halo, which is really the usual way, just to say no in the north. But here's southern dialect, wake. And oh yeah, so the monster says, and by the way, it's the longest sentence that the monster ever says, wake kata naika patlach elapai masaika. So can't I give return you folks? So what's left out there is the her. Okay, it's unusual in jargon. When you're ever referring to a person, it's virtually always that you say yaka. The monster doesn't say yaka. So maybe another point to ponder, does it speak weird? Does this monster talk Chinook weird? He's using the silent it, here's my quotation mark fingers, that Chinookawa has. The pronoun for it is to say, now, and practice your pronunciation here. Got it? The pronoun for it in this language, like in many indigenous languages, is, and that's what the monster seems to do here. He's basically saying, no, I can't return it to you, when he refers to the old lady. So that's just making my brain wheels, turn like crazy.
I think it's got to be just a normal. In my mind, this is a statement about how the monster views her. I think it's clear enough that, and my guess is that if you had writing of people in pretty serious arguments, maybe talking to someone and treating them like they were a piece of property or something like that, you might see that grammar used to a person to be really, a bit of a put down.
Do you think maybe the monster is speaking like a white guy would speak Chinook and using that it?
Possibly.
Or did it come up once during one of these sessions? The fact is, the little old lady, she is now dead, and because she's dead, she's not referred to as a yaka.
Yeah, that's an implication that is possible too. However, the story right up through to this sentence, with the old lady's relatives speaking, he's always saying yaka about her.
Well, the relatives assume she's still alive.
And she's still making noise and moving around.
Okay.
So it's it's left to your interpretation, as things traditionally are in native storytelling, as far as I have experienced it or understood it. Definitely makes you think, and that's classic result of hearing one of these stories. Let's see. Yeah, so silent E, for you new folks, it's something you've never seen in any of the old Chinook dictionaries, but it's a real part of the language. And yeah, to pick up on Sam's comment, is the monster talking bad Chinook like a white guy? Maybe, but you know what? White folks like overuse yaka, right? White folks tend to use yaka for it, whereas fluent jargon speakers would not. So in that way, this sounds unwhite.
Can I ask another question about this?
Mhm.
So Pasach Kilapai Masaika, shouldn't there be a Kopa Masaika for returning it to you all?
Not necessarily. That's a very sharp question. Very good. But it's good jargon style to leave out a copa when it's clear from the context what's going on. Clearly the monster is not giving those people, right? Is clearly giving to them. And the word patlach is understood. I mean, in every human language I've studied, that it has two objects. It has a direct object, the thing given, and it has whoever's given to, the indirect object. All of that's to over explain it, I know, but
That was a good explanation. Thank you.
well, thank you for the feedback. That's valuable stuff. I think this next paragraph is actually a natural sort of a size chunk for the next volunteer.
I'll go.
Hang on. Did I already do that? I'm getting sidetracked by by our discussion. Actually, yeah, these 3 lines here would be the next. And it sounds like we do have someone wanting it.
Yeah, I can read that.
Okay.
Lately, Altatlaskawawa, Plushin Saika Mamuk Paya Yaka. Altatlaska Lolo late Hayu Stick Lagom. Kanaway Ikta Okuk Lai Stick. Plaskamash Kanaway Ka Kikwali Ka Okuk Klap. He Mitlet. Is it Klap?
Clop.
Klap.
So the TL is the slurpy L sound.
Yeah.
And the WH is the kind of a rounded.
Yeah, just don't think I've ever seen that word.
It's written as, I think, cla, whop in old dictionaries. But yeah, whop is a hole.
Oh, right, yeah. So, Leili Altataskawawa. So, Leili in this case is like, I mean, it's a temporal adverb, but I'm not sure. Like for long, like
Yeah,
after a
so
while.
It was a long time, comma.
Okay. Then they said, we should burn him, set him on fire or something, right?
Yeah.
Then they gathered up a bunch of lagom stick. That's a kind of tree, right?
Ah, yeah, but this is stick lagom.
Some kind of fluid.
So it's
resin?
it's a measurement expression. So it's many sticks of lagom.
Oh.
So it's many sticks of pitch wood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kanawa ikta okuk dry stick. Everything the dry stick. The dry. Okay, that's weird. So Kanawa ikta, everything.
Yeah, and also meaning every kind.
Ah, like all kinds of like trees
Yes.
or like dead plants. Okay. Plus kamash Kanawa ka kikwali. They just they threw them somewhere. They threw them below some.
Mm-hmm.
And they just threw them on the ground everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Ka ukuk plafila mitlet. Oh, so they threw them in the hole.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. Late flush, Makawawa. Wuchnaika. Lele alta tlaskawawa. I misspelled this word. I'll add another O. Flush nasaika mamukbaya yaka. Alda tlaska lolo dlate hayu stick lagom. Kanwe ik de ook blij stick. Tlaska mash kanwe kach equally. Kach ook swapil hemeflight. And I see another spelling to correct. Ugh. It's a never-ending job. Okay, it was a long time. Then, okay, so something for you, for our newer participants. You know that alta means now. That's the basic idea. In stories, though, it's like alta, 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 alta. You know, and then, and then, and then, and then. So it was a long time, and then they said, "Let's burn it." Let's burn that monster. You know. Then they brought or carried really many sticks of pitch. All right, so many pieces of pitchwood, all kinds. Ikta can mean not just a thing, but a kind. So all kinds of that dry wood. They threw everywhere down there below where that whole place was. Again, the way of expressing a cave is typically, you know, a chwapilihi, you know, a whole place, or a stone chwapilihi, a stone whole place. All right, let me fix my own oversights here real quick, since I pointed them out on a recorded webcast. Okay, all better. And we're getting into the home stretch of this story. Good, making good use of our time. I'm gonna say, yeah, this much for the next person.
I can give that a shot.
Mhm.
Tlaska mama pat okok swap ilhi. Alta Tlaska mama paya. Jaco paya kanaway. Ogok paya charawa kekwali ka ogok swap ilhi. Leli alta Chaco halo ogok paya. Alta Tlaska wawa onus alta kanaway Chaco paya Tlaska. So they filled up the cave. And now they made a fire. The fire became everything. Everything became on fire. The fire went down into the cave, I guess. Yeah. And then after some time, then there was nothing. After some time, there is nothing. The fire. So the fire had destroyed everything, I think is what that's saying. And then they said, maybe everything has been burned. Maybe they've all been burned.
Ayumasi. Altanaika. Slasko mamuk pash oko chwapilihi. Alta slasko mamuk paya. Chokopaya kanawi. Ukukbaya slatwa kikuli kach ukuk swapilihi. Lele alta choko halo ukukbaya. Alta slaska wawa. Onus alta kanawi chokopaya slaska. So they made full, they filled up that cave. Then they set it on fire. This actually, to my mind, this has a silent it as well. They set on fire it. Chakopaya Kanui became burned everything, okay? So everything burned up. That fire went down where that cave was. You don't always use a word for to be. And so, yeah, it's the fire went down where that cave was. And after a long time, then it became nothing, that fire, right? It burned out. Then they said, maybe now all have been burnt up then, right? So all of them, all those people and the old lady and the skukum, all of them, Slaska, have chakopaya. They've become burned. So they've gone nuclear. All right, let's see. Obviously near the end of the story there. And I don't know. Let's turn this into two more reading selections. Who would like the second to last one?
I'll do it. Alta Tlaska Kilapai Kopa Tlaska House, Tlaska Ko, Alta Tlaska Mislite. Okok Tennis Kluchman Chaco Hayas. Alta Okok Yaka Papa Wik Kanse Ka Yaka Tlatwa Yaka Mislite Quandason. So then they returned to their house. They got there. Now they were there. This little girl came in a big way. Now this her father, not many. There he came. They were there together.
Aha, Masi, hi Masi. Alta Nika Nanich Piwawa. Alta Slaska Elapai Kopa Slaska House. Slaska O. Alta Slaska Mislide. Okok Tennis Kluchman Chakohayas. Alta Okok Yaka Papa Wikansich Kah Yaka Slatwa. Yaka Mislide Quanasum. Then they returned to their home. They arrived or got there. Then they were there or stayed there. Common meaning of mitleid, common use of it is not just be there, but to stay there. That girl, that young woman, just because this literally means little woman, our brains sometimes want that to mean like, little something, right? Little girl or something. But I would take it she's pretty big kid, pretty highly functional, right? Helping take care of the house and running for help when danger happens and so on. Anyway, I think she's a girl or a young woman. So that girl grew up. She became big, right? Chaco Hayas. That girl grew up. Then that her father, so that dad of hers, and then this is always just a tricky part of the jargon to learn, but it's a common expression. Literally, not how much. Well, in the southern dialect that this was told in, Kanse can also mean when. It's the older dialect, by the way, of jargon. So not when, okay? It's not really not how much, it's not when, and therefore it's never. Wait, Kanse. And we still have that in the northern dialect too. It's the usual way of saying never. Wait, Kanse. And ka is where. Here's where I remind you for the 1000th time, or, maybe the first of 1,000 times, but you'll hear this a lot. These question words in the jargon can also mean or be used as indefinite expressions. And so the word for where can mean somewhere or anywhere. Now we have a negative, right? So not anywhere. Put it all together, okay, now that father of hers, never anywhere did he go. All right. He stayed, again, Mitleid as to stay. He stayed always. He remained there always. And yeah, be verbs and motion verbs can have the implication of be there, be here, come here, go there, within the verb itself. And so the Mitleid is like stayed there always. A lot of good points just within that short reading there. Who would like to mamukopet Nasaika Siatsam? Who would like to finish our story?
Naga Tiki ask if the country thing is only in the southern dialects, how do you say when in the northern dialect?
Yeah.
Or do you say when?
Yeah, well, it's funny. In the northern dialect, strangely enough, what I've mostly come across, this is my dissertation research that I'm getting into, because it's the best source of what seemed like kind of natural spoken jargon, essentially. People who had just learned how to write, as a rule, scholars find new literate people just write the way they talk. And what we find among those people is kahsan, which is where day.
Oh, okay.
Which had never been documented before, right? Because nobody had ever done a serious, dictionary or document of jargon as spoken in BC. But this is, a pretty universal thing for those folks to say where day. So that's one answer. I think there's other things that
Post.
going on. But I mean, for example, the where day thing does actually seem to refer to days. People asking which day something happened. It's just that we don't have examples that I recall of people saying like when, as in what time of day, and so forth. Yeah, or what time in history. It's a open question in a way. Well, all the flocks tiki nanach piwala okok. Tlonus slushpas naika wala.
Nobody else wants. Oh. Kopet okok lakit shaska shatwa kopa lamotai, shaska shatwa nanich mawich, alta kopet kakwa. So I think that might mean kopet okok lakit, only those four, maybe. Shaska shatwa kopa lamotai, they went to the mountain. Shaska shatwa nanich mawich, they went and looked at deer. Maybe they went to hunt for deer. And Alta Kopet Kakwa, then that's all there is about this. That's this. I don't know.
Yeah. Gleitlush. Micah Comtex. So Kopet okok lakit, Slaska flatwa kopa lamatai, Slaska flatwa nanich mawich. Alta Kopet Kakwa. Just those four. Okay, so there's no longer a 5-man hunting party because dad stays home. Just those four, they went to the mountains. They went deer hunting. deer looking is a usual expression in jargon. In BC, by the way, you could just say they went to the mountains. That's actually frequent in BC jargon for going hunting. All the Nika Tlatwakupa Lamatai, Dennis Lele Nika Elapai Lolo Mawich, right? And in a little while I'll come back carrying some deer. And Alta Copacagua is a pretty like a standard expression to end a story in this language. Now, just like that, it's just like that. A person might say Copacagua Nika Gumducks, which would be like just like that, or just that much do I know or remember. A real, particularly it's an indigenous way of ending a story.
Yeah, so we do some work with Quileute, and they kind of end all their stories with so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds similar.
Yeah. I remember my Spokane language teacher, Pauline, the late Pauline Flett, ending stories in English with something like, "That's all I know." And that's all of this story as, written down anyway by Melville Jacobs, this anthropologist who did us big service. He's kind of the only person who ever did this in previous days, to take jargon speakers seriously enough to sit still and write down every single word they said exactly. Believe it or not, until he did this in around 1930, obviously many thousands of people spoke jargon and were interested in it. This was a best-selling genre of books in the Northwest, little jargon dictionaries. But nobody really tried to get a completely precise picture of how the language is used until he did. And it's from him, for example, that I discovered, I think I was the first to point out, you have this thing that I call the silent it in jargon. You only get it, you only can see that happening when you have connected sentences, right? Connected speech going on, sustained topics, and so forth. You'd never know it from the old jargon publications, which were just lists of individual words, right? And who would ever list a nothing, a silent it in a list of words? So thank you, Hayumasi Melville Jacobs. And
Yeah.
Hayumasi Victoria Howard. Victoire was her name that she's known by on the reservation there. She's great, very fluent speaking, native speaking elder. She grew up with the language from birth and told a bunch of stories in it and knew a whole ton of stuff. She also spoke, among other languages, Clackamas Chinookan, and she's our main source of knowledge about that language. Melville Jacobs took down a very thick book full of her talking Clackamas Chinookan.
What was the name? It got cut off.
Sorry?
The name of the woman that you're just talking about.
Oh yeah, well, Victoria Howard. It's at the top of our document there.
Yeah, sorry, it just got cut off in the mic.
Yeah, here I will go back up to that for you guys. Victoria Howard. And if you have your copy yet, as you should get, if you have a copy of the Grand Ronde Tribes Chinookwawah Dictionary, there are many, many, many examples of the words in here. It shows you how to use words in sentences. Many of the examples have the initials VH on them because they're from Victoria Howard, right? So she's considered this great authority, for speaking excellent Chinukwawa.
I was just checking whether the story also appeared in this book.
Uh-huh.
Badger and Coyote were friends, and this is Melville Jacobs. And I don't think it is, literally the story, but there are others that were told at the same time in Chinook jargon.
Right.
But of course, this one only has the English translation. There's no Chinukwawa in this.
Yeah, in that book, there are sometimes, I think, slightly alternate stories. Like maybe she told the same story in a different language that she knew. There's some of that. There's another book. I'm not finding it here at the moment, but there is another book with even more kind of details of what she knew about stories and so on. If you get hunting around, I'll look for it after this session.
Can I ask, Melville Jacobs, how did he write down the Chinukwawa? Did he use Diployan or English or Latin alphabets?
I'll bring it up on the screen for you here. He used linguists kind of phonetic notation, 1930s vintage. It's not exactly what we linguists would use now, but we can easily make sense of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can read through it and you get all the accents on the words and everything, which is really nice.
Yep, accents and very detailed pronunciation. All the so-called Indian sounds are very clearly notated. He had a very good ear. So this is the same story we just have been reading. Just one leg, just one his arm. So he's got, kind of an English translation, not all of which I agree with, by the way. We've learned a bit more about jargon since the 1930s. Down here, though, here's how he wrote the jargon.
So she said,
right. So this first bit here, in Northern dialect, that would definitely be Klaska Mithleit. In the Southern dialect, people did something that you do when you grow up talking a language. They made it faster, right? And so they have Hlas instead of Hlaska. So Hlas Mithleit, Ich Lamiai, Quanam Yatanas, instead of Yakatanas, it's Yatanas. Tanuiman, Ich Yakwiim, so Ich Yaka Quiim, that's their version, their word, Quiim for grandchild from Salish language. Ukman Telecom, so for us that'd be Okokman Telecom. Okman Telecom, Guanasum plus Flatwa, Flaska Flatwa, Nanich Mawich. Oklamiai, Okok Lamiai for us. Piyakwiyim, Piyaka Tanas Yakatanas, her grandchild. Kapit Makst, Buslas Mitleid Kappa House. The Southern dialect uses bus a little different from us too. It's it can express kind of habitual action. They always lived, or they were always at the house. And Kanchi Lili Kagwatlaska, for some time, for some long time, that's how they were. Alda plus Flatwa Wacht, so Flaska, Flatwa Wacht, they went again. Plus Wawa Flaska, Flaska, Wawa Flaska, they said to them. Damala Afki Lachsan Chin Sak. Oh, that has a whole bunch of Southern dialect stuff in it.
Dave, thank you very much. I'm going to jump in here because it's 9 o'clock now.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I just would like to thank everybody. It's kind of a historic day here. There's 13 of us together. It's the most we've had. So yeah, nice to see. So
Exactly. 14. We got 14 here.
14, what's happened now? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Oh, right. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Yes. Well, now then that begs the question then, who have I missed on my list? Because I want to make sure I get the emails to Dave, so everybody gets, okay, we got Norbert, we got Sequoia, we got Sean, we got Paisley, we got Sam, there's Dave, there's Susan, Lauren, Dale, Nick, Gabrielle, Kaylin. Who did I miss?
Missing me because I'm just sitting here with Paisley.
Which is fair enough. I see what, okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, okay, now I see why there's 14. Okay.
Should I?
Magic. No, this is all fine.
I can give you my email address. It might be helpful.
Okay, are you going to be joining us each week?
I hope to.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, and your name then?
Katie and
Katie. Katie, I tell you what, rather than giving me the email address now, maybe Paisley can send it to me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, but I'll put you onto the mailing list then. Okay, fair enough. Okay. So, Midlight Skookum, and I'm going to hit the red button now. The pill button gets pushed.
Asi Tilkum.
Askin Sawawa.
Ayamasi.
Okay.